Eline.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Ve salatu ve selamu ala seyyidina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecma'in. Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to our fourth session on the topic of on illnesses, remedies for the sick from Risale-i Nur Collection. Inshallah, we are going to continue where we left from the last week. We finished last week the fifth remedy. We will start the sixth one, inshallah. And once we read from the original content, we have two guest speakers today, Brother Mustafa Tuna from North Carolina, US, and Brother Baikar from Connecticut, Bloomfield, Connecticut. And this is Mustafa. I'm from Saudi Arabia. Inshallah, I will be moderating the session. So as the side note, inshallah, feel free to ask any question through our chat box, or you can jump in if you want to add any comments, and contributions are more than welcome. So let's start, inshallah, our first part, which is the sixth remedy, part 1. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sixth remedy, part 1. To those who are sick and who complain of their suffering, I say this. When you think of the past, remembering the happy times you have had filled you with longing, while thinking of the sad times fills you with soothing relief that they are no more. Bringing to mind the troubles of the past causes your heart to sing and your tongue to give thanks to Allah that they are now history, while recalling the pleasures of the past causes you to sigh with regret that they are gone. Pay close attention and you will see that in fact it is actually the passing of pain and sadness which causes joy and happiness. Similarly, it is actually the passing of joy and happiness which causes pain and sadness. For as pain leaves, pleasure takes its place. As pleasure departs, pain occupies its seat in human hearts. That which makes us sigh with regret in it, in fact, the legacy of those happy, joyful times we have known in the past. Just as one day of illicit pleasure can sometimes cause a year's suffering to the spirit, the pain of one short day of illness can lead to many days of pleasure as compensation, together with the pleasure that one feels when one is relieved at its passing. Bear this in mind when you are ill. Think of the pleasure that the passing of this short sickness will bring, and think of the bounties that are hidden beneath its veil. Say, everything comes from Allah and this too will pass. Say this and offer thanks instead of complaining. So this is an interesting remedy. I mean, we are, inshallah, in the pharmacy of the Quran. And in this century, one of the greatest pharmacists is the Ustad Bediuzzaman Said Nursi. Alhamdulillah, Allah gifted him to many remedies. He applied these remedies on his own life, and he is sharing with us, Alhamdulillah. So this sixth remedy has two parts. We just read it, the first portion. Maybe we could go back to the beginning and talk about this first part before we jump into the second. So it is actually repeated 2 times, and Ustad is also giving a footnote why this happened, and he didn't want it to touch because it came like repeated in its original form. So inshallah, I would like to ask first, I want to say welcome Mustafa Abi and Baykar Abi. And I would like to hear you, your first contributions about this sixth remedy. If you want to connect it, the sixth remedy with the previous one, maybe fifth one, how we can link together. So I would like to turn, if Mustafa Abi is available, welcome to the session, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Okay, I mean, as I read this, and I'm also looking at the Turkish, in what's translated as I say this is actually a question I'm asking you. And, although the meaning does not change tremendously, I think there is a nuance there that might help us process this better, not understand this better, but process this better. And that is, thinking about the methodology that Ustad uses many times in the Risale-i Nur in order to convey the message to his interlocutor, the reader. And anybody who is familiar with the Risale-i Nur knows this. I'm just repeating, and that is grounding the understanding in the self, the ana, right? The human I. So Ustad is asking here, think about it, like think about the past days, think about the troubles you have in the past, and think about the happy times you have in the past. What have they left to you, right? Now, in order to actually benefit from this remedy, I think rather than talking about it, we all need to, take a pause and think about these issues. And I personally, can attest to it, but I also feel that the reality of this dawns on the person with the passage of time more and more. So the older a person becomes, the more real this becomes for the person. And that is, you remember the, times of trouble in the past, and if they are gone and completely gone, and it is only a memory that's left behind, you feel this sense of relief, perhaps even a sense of success for having gone through it successfully and overcome the problem. And then when you think about the times of real joy in your life in the past, if they too are temporary and you don't see anything going forward for their perpetuation, then you are filled with a sense of sadness and longing, as the translation nicely puts. So I don't feel like I can say much about this. I think I can only invite everybody to think about it and try to recognize what Ustad is speaking about here in their own experience. And that is the one of the meanings of verification, like tahqiq, one of the meanings of realization. Inshallah.
Thank you very much, Mustafa Abi, for your insights and good analysis for this remedy. Yeah, as you said, it's quite interesting, the strategy Ustad is using, cornering our ana and asking the questions. Actually, as you said, think about your past, the joyful times. It was limited, maybe a short time, and what is left in your hand, right? As you said, actually, kind of is trying to also fix our psychology, right? So it is a great, I think, ointment where for our spirit, soul, inshallah, benefiting for this part. Thank you very much for that. And I would like to turn to Baykar Abi. Baykar Abi, could you please share your insights about the first part of the sixth remedy?
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. I want to thank both Mustafa Abis. They open a window into my mind, besides beautiful parts from Ustad here in the Hastalar Risalesi. So Mustafa Abi said a couple of times about thinking. That's very interesting. As modern men, we don't have much time, to think. We have a lot of fancy words, but then we need to go and act upon it. We just go for the action. We just don't contemplate. We just don't take our time to think about things. So the sickness is the time to think. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us a favor, just slows us down, and think about this. So what do you have in this? It's very interesting in that sense. Still we don't take the advantage of this sickness, and don't really think deeply about it. Our immediate reaction, as we know, as modern men, I want it immediately, I want it now, and what I want is just something pleasing me, something just makes me happy, gives me pleasure. And with what I am asking for, this maybe with my basest feelings, with what about my aql, what about my intelligence, what about my spirit, what about my ruh, right? What about my heart? Am I really seeking also happiness and well-being of all these things, all my human being, or I'm just asking for instant pleasures, just for the instant happiness of my basest feelings? So Ustad just opens our eyes to our human reality. This is not a way to real happiness. If you want a real happiness, long-term happiness, a happiness for your heart, for happiness for your ruh, just open your eyes, think about it. Where is the happiness? So this is very interesting. He said, those pleasurable times, what do you have now in your hands? What remain behind? Just think about it. If it was just for your pleasure, if it was just for your nafs, if it was just for the sake of that physical pleasurable instant, it is gone. Nothing left behind. Just maybe pains. Even people from any culture, for example, in American culture, they say, oh, good old days, when I was young, this is right. People just talk about this extensively, and you can say they sigh about it, they just mourn about it, right? It's gone now, nothing left behind. But on the contrary, if I have little conscience, right, little bit, if I gave little thought on this, those pains, actually, those troublesome times, those difficult times that I struggled, I put effort on, those all left like instance of compassion, pleasure, some pleasurable moments in it, because now I can appreciate my situation better than before. I can really acknowledge what I have now via those hard, tough moments. So it's very interesting, how Ustad switch our view about the reality. He just opens our eyes. It's very interesting. This is a very basic human feeling, but unfortunately our eyes are closed to this basic realities of the Quran. We just illusioned. We are just illusioned by the modern, I don't know, perspective, and we just go like an animal, just instant now. It should please me. I should have constant fun. Actually, this is the biggest sickness we have. It has no cure. It has no cure. If we keep continuing on this kind of mindset, we will never be happy. Period. We test it, we experience it again and again and again, but still we don't understand it, because we don't give a time to sit down and think about it. This is the time, inshallah, when we have the sickness, when we have the trouble, Allah makes us the favor, slows us down. We should take the advantage. Just think about it. inshallah.
Thank you very much, Baykarabi, for your great insights. What you underlined for us is also this sickness, it has a moment of like thinking, right? It's as if like what I was thinking when you are describing, maybe we are in a waiting room and you are away from maybe busy worldly life outside. And then as Allah is also saying in the Quran, أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, so don't you think, these kind of statements is there, but maybe we were just passing quickly and not thinking deeply, like tefekkur, reflection. So Ustad is also giving us an example of, thinking. And the source of, as you said, the joy, I mean, there's a pleasure, but what is the source of the pleasure? How we can get the pleasure out of the problems we had maybe in the past? He's also showing us. And what are the things which we are saying and, regretful moments and things like that? So Ustad is also giving an example for that. Yeah, this is a great strategy of Ustad's, Alhamdulillah. So and also there is one part down. Sometimes when someone is doing like a 1 day pleasure, this can give him like maybe a 1 year spiritual suffering. The people maybe in prison, and they have done maybe a little bit joyful moments, and this was not, the proper thing to do, but they end up having like being in the prison. And sometimes also spirits can be also in prison, maybe not physically we are in prison, but Ustad also I think doing a training of our soul or our nafs to show what is the proper way of getting the joy and this. I would like to also ask other brothers, if you have anything in your mind would like to contribute, please feel free either through chat or you can unmute and express your inshallah insights. This was the first part. Has anyone wants to say anything, or should we maybe carry on for the second part of our remedy?
I want to add something, but I mean, if there's
Okay.
another brother or sister who wants to say something, I would defer to it. But something else also comes to my mind, and that is again, thinking about the premises that starts from the foundational ideas that lead us to thinking like this. Because when we reach the book Flashes in the collection of the Risale-i Nur, we are not only establishing the realities of faith. That is done in especially the words, and then to some extent the letters, and it continues to be done, but the basics are already handled. The seed is sown, and now we are harvesting the benefits of what was sown in terms of in terms of verified faith, right? And one of the starting points for that is reality is beautiful. Reality is a manifestation of the divine, a manifestation of God. God is beautiful. God is magnificent. So reality is beautiful and magnificent, and that's the starting point. But then, as we walk on the path, we stumble upon these instances that don't seem to add up. Like that, I got sick. I have pain, right? So the beginning of this, remedy is, the sick person who is complaining of suffering. So Ustad is not trying to convince us here that there is no suffering, that we did not stumble on anything, right? But we need to go back to our starting point, to our premise, and acknowledge that we have full faith in this, that reality is beautiful, right? So if that is the starting point, how do we add this up? And then we need to think about to what aspect of reality are we looking. The sick person who is suffering from pain because the nafs, the soul is suffering will concentrate on that. So in Turkish, they say like insanın neresi acıyorsa canı oradadır. Whichever part of the body is hurting, that's where the soul is. That's where the spirit or the soul is, right? That's what they say in Turkish. So we focus on the pain at that given moment. And that is a dark place to be because one, by focusing on it, we feel it more. Two, we are detached from this larger, bigger reality. That reality is beautiful. So here's what Ustad is doing is he's diverting our attention to that bigger picture within which even that temporary suffering, and this is a keyword, like that it is temporary, suffering has a beauty to it, and that beauty can only be understood within the context of a perpetual life, like a life that is not limited to 60, 70, however many years in this temporal world, but that has a permanence to it. And then within that permanence, that can only be understood with recognizing that God is Hafiz, the preserver, and he preserves the moments, or rather what we acquire from the moments that we live, and he is going to reward us accordingly. So when we see that temporary pain, that is hurting and that is serious for the body and the soul, but when we are able to see it in that bigger picture, then we can activate our intelligence, our heart, our imagination, and put it in the bigger picture and start to focus on this other, bigger, more important, more significant and lasting aspect of reality.
This
Thank
was
you very
very
much.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, Baikar.
So thank you for Mustafa's note. I would just kind of focusing on the same point. This is very interesting. This is very important to acknowledge. The more we remind ourselves this, the more, inshallah, we will benefit from it. So everything is from Allah, right? And everything comes from the most beautiful one is most beautiful. So unless we acknowledge this, there's no comfort in this life. There's no comfort in this sickness. There's no comfort in this trouble. So, but when we acknowledge it, it really, ease the situation greatly. So, think about that. You go to the hospital, right? You just leave yourself under the knife of a surgeon, right? So maybe he's gonna take out of your heart. He's gonna take out of your, I don't know, limbs out. I don't know. He's gonna just cut your body, right? So this is, with a plain look at something horrible. But when we trust the, physician, we just even sign the paperwork and everything, and willfully we just leave ourselves to his hands, right? So inshallah, when we think about it like that, whatever comes from him and is all wise and all compassionate, just the situation, of course, just turns 180 degrees to the other side, right? It's just a different reality now that we can observe. Thank you. I'm sorry, just I cut it.
Thank you very much, Baikar Abi and Mustafa Abi, for your great insights. And in this remedy also, what you were saying that, the time is limited, let's say these painful moments, and the outcome of, let's say, our life, what Allah asks from us, shukr, right? And when Ustad is pointing here also, what brings also shukr and where your pain is located, I think our soul, as Mustafa Abi has pointed out, that our soul is there. We consider it, we have a stomach, or we have, some body parts which we remember when we are sick, and we say, Alhamdulillah. And, maybe those sicknesses, when they leave, it is giving you a pleasure, and then you say Alhamdulillah. But that Alhamdulillah, maybe you are saying in a 5 to 10 seconds in this world. But if it's being sincerely said with ikhlas, There could be millions of, let's say, trees or wealth or joy in the next life. So unlimited joy, but the key is here is you have to show patience and don't complain. Because at the beginning of the sixth remedy, Ustad is saying that, oh, patience, I mean, the sick person who complains about the suffering, right? You know, they say we are suffering, we are doing this, that, but there is no point of like complaining about this, because for those short limited moments can give you a great bounties, you know, pleasures, inshallah, for the next life. So that was also one of the take-home message for me from what I understood from your insights. Thank you very much. Okay, should we go down a little bit more? Is there any other contribution by Karabi? Yes, we are listening.
Just a short one. Also, what Mustafa said is very important about acknowledging the pain, the human experience over there. You know, even Ustad is starting. I guess we quoted before, but I just want to repeat it one more time. In the very beginning of this treatise, you know, he's given all these wisdoms, all these, you know, thoughts on this experience, but he starts with saying that while the treatise is not as polished as I might have hoped, it does reflect the manner in which inspiration came upon me. And I felt that to polish it too much would be to detract from the treatise's freshness and spontaneity. Please accept my apologies if, as a result of its not being edited carefully, anything untoward has crept into my writing. Any mistakes or infelicities are mine, and I ask the reader to forgive and pray for me. So, some, you know, statements we make could be, you know, Ustad is very careful in his statement. So he's, you know, taking it step by step. So he's actually acknowledging the human experience here, the pain and suffering, and it's not easy for the human being, you know. So while of course using these cures, we should be taking it step by step, and there is, this is a very important experience of human, you know. We just talking about it is easy, of course, but while going through it, you know, uh, it might not be that easy, you know. It could be a painful surgery on us, of course. So thank you for reminding that, Mustafa.
Thank you very much, Bakarabi. Yeah, it's easy to read, but it is hard to implement in our life. Inshallah, with more reading and reflection, this can, inshallah, you know, help our immunization against these challenges, and it can strengthen our muscles, I mean the spiritual muscles, so that we can tackle those, you know, let's say, you know, sicknesses, or maybe the people around us, if they are significantly severe, maybe they have the challenges. So these also remedies psychologically, inshallah, it's also helping for them. Jazakallah khairan kasiran. Inshallah, anyone who wants to add as final thoughts, maybe we could move to the next if no one is adding anything more. Okay. So inshallah. So this is one of the interesting thing. We have the 2-6 remedies, and in the Colin Abi's translation, we are reading from Dr. Colin Turner's translation. He made it into 6 remedy, part 1 and part 2. But I would like to also read the part which is like a footnote, how Ustad has expressed this one, why this is repeated. 6th remedy, part 2. In the original Turkish treatise, the sections which appear here as 6th remedy part 1 and 6th remedy part 2 both carry the subheading 6th remedy. Rather than change the second of these to 7th remedy, or retitle them as part 1 and part 2, as the translator has done, the author decided not to amend the oversight, suggesting that there might be some unknown wise purpose behind his erroneous assignation of the same numerical subheading to 2 different sections. translator. So, sixth remedy, part 2. To those who think of the pleasures of the world and feel distress because they are ill, I say this: if this world were everlasting and our journey did not end in death, yes, maybe I would have pity for you. If in this life the winds of passing and separation never blew, and if our spirits never knew winter or suffered the storms and calamities of life's ending, maybe I would have felt sorry. But one day the world will ask us to leave, and however much we beg, it will be deaf to our cries. And so we must take heed of the warnings brought by illness, and we must forego our love of the world before it drives us out. Our hearts must abandon the world before the world abandons us. For illness is indeed a warning. It says to each of us, your body is not made of iron or stone. It is made of materials which perish easily. So give up your pride, acknowledge your impotence, recognize your honor, and know your duties. Learn, if you can, why you came to this world. This is what illness whispers in the heart's ear. Furthermore, the pleasures and enjoyments of the world do not last, and if those pleasures are illicit, they are particularly fleeting, not to mention sinful and shot through with pain. Losing the ability to pursue those pleasures because you are ill really is no cause for regret, so do not weep on the pretext of illness for what you have lost. Instead, think how that illness can be a cause of worship, leading you to reward in the hereafter. Think of that and try to derive pleasure from it. So this is the part 2 of the sixth remedy. I would like to ask Mustafa Abi, how can we link these two sides? What is your initial insight about the second part? I mean, it seems that somehow there might be some link, they can support each other. But as a remedy, how do you see it as an overall and also the individual of this part?
Okay, yes, again. Okay, I'm thinking as you asked the question, I guess this is what we can say. The absence of pleasure is, pain. And in the second remedy, Ustad is talking about people who are concerned about their not being able to access pleasures of the world that are out there. And that in and of itself is a pain. I was also thinking that, I was also thinking of this remedy in the context of the first and second flashes, where Ustad talks about the story of Yunus alayhi salam, Ayub alayhi salam, and there he says, for the whale that swallowed Yunus alayhi salam, we have our lower soul, which is swallowing us in a worse way, and then for the troubles and sicknesses that Ayub alayhi salam, Job alayhi salam was going through, we all are sick. So we appear to be living in or that seems to suggest that we are living in a constant state of sickness, and that sickness is the ailments of the lower soul. And when I was thinking about it, it came to me that this might actually be worse for, Al-Karabi also referred to the modern man, right? The human being in its in the state of this contemporary age, because here he talks about those who think of the pleasures of the world, and we are living at a time when the pleasures of the world are like so variegated, so accessible, and so commercialized and so advertised that it is almost impossible to not want something constantly at any given time. And we are, because, you know, again, think about the first word too here, and many other places, because all these advertised pleasures turn into needs through the whims of our lower souls, corresponding to the wail of Yunus alayhi salam. They are turned into needs through the intervention of our lower souls. We are living in a constant state of frustration, right? We are living in a constant state of frustration, and that is the sickness. Now, the more concrete way to think about this would be, say, a child who got sick, has high fever, the muscles are aching, and lying down in his room, and through the window he sees his friends playing soccer outside in the field. Of course, that child will be in the state of distress and thinking like, oh, if only I did not have this fever and I could play with my friends, etc., etc. So that is the more concrete and perhaps accessible example of this. That's like what we can all relate to. When I'm sick, I cannot go to the park, I cannot meet my friends, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, and that's in and of itself is distressing because it is taking the pleasure of all those things from me. But at the same time, there is this other thing that is going on, that we are constantly in a state of sickness because we are constantly bombarded with these desire-producing messages from the world. And if we do not acquire a perspective, the right instrument, the right tool to deal with that, which is the proper perspective that Ustad Nursi is providing here, mashallah, we won't be able to overcome that distress, and we will be living in hell in this age of abundance.
Yes, thank you very much, Mustafa Abi, for the emphasizing these worldly pleasures are very attractive. It's not easy to say, no, I don't want. And it seems that the sickness becomes like an obstacle for someone who thinks these worldly pleasures, why I cannot have an excess, as you said, like a childish thing, And also, Ustad is giving this statement, I think, to help and relieve us. If the world were like eternal, and if there was no like death on our path, if the winds of separation, disappearance, this zawal did not come to us, if there were not like a spiritual winter, like elderliness, if there was no this kind of thing, he says, he will pity on our condition, as much as we do. However, one day, this world will say to us, get out from my place. But instead of like getting this harsh message, when we have a love of dunya in an extreme side, we should take, I think, the warning of this sickness Ustad is mentioning here, and with our dignity and respect, let's say, maybe if it's a proper way to say, we should leave the worldly pleasures from our heart. Not like physically, we should still work, we should do certain things, but we should not put the world in our front line and loving like as if like we are gonna live here eternally. So this is, I think, a very strong message which Ustad is giving. And also the sickness, I think, is telling us also what is our body is being made of. I mean, this is also another angle. And I would like to turn to Baykar Abi. Baykar Abi, what do you think? What is the take-home message right now? What you feel from this remedy?
Well, the whole, all the remedies are kind of interconnected. It is really hard to differentiate how both sixth ones follow each other. But this statement in quotations just took my attention. It's kind of the summary of the whole thing in a way to me. For illness is indeed a warning. It says to each of us, your body is not made of iron or stone. It is made of materials which perish easily. So give up your pride, acknowledge your impotence, recognize your owner, and know your duties. Learn, if you can, why you came to this world. This is what illness whispers in the heart's ear. So again, what immediately cries out, yells, is the nafs. Nafs is like that child that Mustafa described beautifully. So immediately, focuses on that side of the issue. But again, with the nafs, I have my heart, I have my mind, and their pleasure is always more, continuous. Even in this world, it is a long-term happiness in a way. But the nafs is kind of just here, wants to satisfy itself by the short time ones. So it is an ongoing struggle. So we have to remind ourselves constantly this reality. First of all, if it goes all well, when I say well, kind of the way the nafs wants it, unfortunately, we easily forget this reality. He says, give up your pride, acknowledge your impotence, recognize your owner. Recognize your owner. This is the most critical point, I guess, because now everything goes well. This is my life. This is my body. This is my spare time. This is my time. This is my hobbies. This is the way I like it. This is, my enjoyments and my entertainment. Don't intervene in it. Just stay away. I'm just, trying to make it continuous for myself. Any distraction in between is kind of no, not acceptable with my nafs, by my nafs. So this is a kind of very problematic approach to the reality of the life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah, does not leave us to our own devices, to our own nafs. It will not work like this. So constantly Allah opens our eyes that this body is not yours. This is a trust, and you have a duty. You come to this world for something. So it is most needed, by us, by the children of this age, that as Mustafa again helped us to describe some of the facts that we are going through every day's life. So it is, a very eye-opening experience that we need to just take the advantage of, with all, of course, difficulties to digest. It is a break from certain pleasures, certain enjoyments and everything. It's painful sometimes, it's difficult sometimes, but again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we believe that He's the owner of the trust and He's the giver of this experience, we put our trust in His mercy and compassion, and inshallah, He will not give it to us in a hard way, but easier way, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Alaikum salam, Nabi Abi.
Can I say something here?
Yes.
Yeah, that warning actually from the illness, it should be general and for everybody, since it says to each of us. And for everybody, that warning must be valid. But I saw a note there, if you can learn, actually that must be a general warning. If we say that if you can, that means that you cannot, maybe. But everybody may understand from the illness, from the calamity, what is his fundamental is, what his basement is. Our fundamental feature is impotence and poverty. That can only be recognized, I think, by calamities and by illnesses. But that warning, that lesson from the illness is general for everybody. Therefore, according to my understanding, learn why you came to this world. This is a general warning for everybody. Therefore, if you can, should be omitted from that sentence. That's my understanding. Thank you.
It is
Yeah.
not in the original Turkish. It is added in translation for some reason.
Yes, it seems that yeah, it's an edit version. I think in the original text, as you said, it's not there. So it is a general message, right? Learn why you came to this world. So if you can part, I think should be omitted also, as you said, yeah. Subhanallah. I think, thank you very much, Nebi abi, Baykar abi, and Mustafa abi. So with this part is also this very powerful paragraph as summary. I mean, when we are young and no sicknesses, we feel like we have a strong body. People are going to gym, making like kind of, they are like an iron and strong. They can, you know, be a very powerful person in this world. And it goes like kind of showing off and taking like a pride, arrogance. And it is in the way of Firaun, like in Quran, Allah is giving an example of Musa alayhi salam and the Firaun. And Musa alayhi salam is acknowledging Allah and showing importance, recognizing Allah and showing us the true way as the prophet. But the other way, the Firaun is taking the pride. He's thinking that, you know, even like he doesn't have, I think, much sicknesses as far as I remember. Maybe you can correct me. But if we give up our pride and learning like why we came to this world, actually we follow the Musa alayhi salam or the, you know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the prophets' way, and so that we don't sink in the water. Otherwise, we could be drawn in these worldly pleasures, and also as a great warning, as you all mentioned, that when you have sickness, you feel your impotence. Yeah. Subhanallah. Thank you very much. And how about this illicit pleasures? I mean, what message we can take? I mean, we are losing the ability to take some worldly pleasures when we are ill. Should we really regret for it? I mean, what should we do? In the following paragraph, which is the last paragraph, is there anyone who wants to say or maybe to rephrase it and maybe giving some examples if you have any experiences? By Karabi or Mustafa Abi, would you like to contribute anything about the last paragraph of the sixth remedy?
Mustafa abi.
Okay. Love and enjoyment both presuppose continuity. So love is a transactional emotion. It is not only about giving; it also wants things in return. You know, we know this from Ustad's discussion of love and compassion. So compassion is not transactional; it is, you know, just you have it, and you don't need to receive something in return. But love is transactional. So because of its transactional nature, we become attached to all these things in the world that give us enjoyment. But as we know from the 10th word, enjoyment also necessitates the presupposition of continuity. And we can all remember that example where Ustad talks about a person who is invited to a feast, everything is wonderful, magnificent, and so on and so forth. And as he enters, he's really like elated. Oh, look at the feast that I'm going to enjoy now. But he's told, okay, enjoy everything, but stay here for 2 hours. At the end of 2 hours, you are leaving from that other door, and you are going to be executed as you leave. So can you enjoy it? No, you cannot enjoy it. Now, our enjoyment of this world, as a result, is the product of a state of heedlessness. We forget the temporality, transience of what is here in this world, and by forgetting that it is transient, we are actually able to enjoy the pleasure that it gives to us through that transactional relationship, and we end up loving things. So that in and of itself is a problematic situation, a problematic attitude that's constructed on a misconception of reality. And sickness is a beautiful warning that brings us out of that state of heedlessness. Now, this is valid for all pleasures of the world, not only illicit ones, but all pleasures of the world. And if we turn those pleasures into a purpose, all pleasures of the world become illicit, because we are not here to turn this world into a purpose. We are not here to, venerate or even, which may go as far as worship the world. We are not here to worship the world. We are here to worship the creator of the world. And any pleasure that we derive from this world that does not also connect us to the creator of the world in and of itself becomes illicit. But in addition to that, there are pleasures that are deliberately marked as illicit. And that state of heedlessness, forgetting the transience of the world, and this is a world that's created, and there's a creator, and we are accountable for the creator. Like that state of heedlessness can also lead us to being carefree, being too liberal about our attitude toward these illicit pleasures of the world. And that's a really dangerous place, and therefore sickness in that context is a blessing. Now, the person who gets sick and who is who by the sickness is withheld from the pleasures of the world, be them illicit or be them not illicit but potential, carrying the potential to become illicit, the nafs will feel like, I'm withheld from all these and therefore become frustrated. But Ustad is inviting us again to see that bigger picture and say, look, all of this is transient anyway. It's going to end. And in that transience, there is already a pain. However, if you utilize what is here, if you take pleasure as due, and if you suffer as due, you are invited to a permanent feast after the grave, after your death, after this world. And what truly matters is your acquisition of the goods of that world. And this illness is not only withholding you from illicit pleasures of the world and preventing you from sinning, but if you can if you can meet it with patience, it's also earning you spiritual rewards that are going to translate into the goods of that permanent, perpetual hereafter. So again, this is a matter of how we see the world with the light of faith, and therefore turn what is troublesome into joyful, and how we find true joy, even in illness, even in sickness.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mustafa Abi. I mean, when you're describing these statements, like if we think as an example, if someone has a dream car and he wants to enjoy and drive, but not only having that enjoyment and driving, but how long I'm gonna keep this car? If they say 1 week you will have it and then we're gonna take from you, this is not gonna be very joyful. So I think Ustad is, as you said here, putting a time limitation. It's not continuous joy and pleasure in this world. This is, I think, the blocking our nafs, saying that, look, you want enjoyment, right? But is it permanent? I mean, no, the world is, some people die when they're very young, and, we see all, from different ages, people are dying and they are not taking much pleasure out of this world. However, this is, let's say, having a car right, driving a car is a halal permissible one. But the Ustad is also saying here, what if if this one primarily, if it's like a غير مشروع or non-permissible within our religion, if this is something which Allah is not pleased with it, then in this case, it's not a permanent pleasure. It has also kind of a pain in it because there is a guilty feeling that you have done something wrong. And it's also putting not hasenat, but it's a sin. It requires a punishment if it's not being forgiven. So I think those also cornering our nafs. Yes, you are thinking the pleasure, but look at this. So how come you can still say that, oh, I lost this pleasure, it's a big loss? In reality, it's not a big loss, but also in the last part when I'm looking from here, and on the contrary, this, I mean, when you think about the ibadah, the akhirah, side, the hasanat, which you will get from this, inshallah, sickness, if the person is faithful, believer, and patient, and inshallah doing shukr to Allah. So this is a great bounty, and this is a great reward, inshallah, in the next life. Yes, thank you very much, Mustafa Abi, for this. I mean, we are very close to the end. If anyone wants to add any contribution, any final words, please feel free to jump in. Okay, if not, by Karabi, can we ask for a dua, inshallah?
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم إنك عفو كريم توب بالعفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو كريم توب بالعفو فاعف عنا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة